a fractured marriage, a faltering career. Keir Starmer is facing a storm that seems impossible to overcome. In an unexpected turn of events that has stunned many, the Labour leader's wife has filed for divorce, accusing him of betraying her trust. Her shocking remake, "I Can't Go On Living a Lie," has sent shockwaves through public discourse, not just because of its personal nature, but because it taps into a deeper wave of doubt currently sweeping British politics. As the nation grapples with economic hardship, social division, and the lingering fallout of Brexit, the collapse of Starmer's personal life has prompted a pressing question. If he cannot hold his own family together, how can he be trusted to lead the nation? For those who have long warned that he is a politician full of empty promises, this moment feels like vindication.
Throughout the election campaign, until they really start, and we're talking until the final few weeks, but going back to the beginning of the year when we all knew there was going to be a general election this year, Keir Starmer was very clear that one of the defining points between Labour and the Conservatives was that he was going to come in and clean up politics. He even admitted necessarily before they'd actually outlined their policies, there wasn't a huge amount between Labour and the Tories, according to Keir Starmer. But the reason he said that he should be elected as Prime Minister and Labour should become the party of government is because he said that they would clean it up. They'd get rid of the cronyism. They'd get rid of any allegations that we've seen against the Tories of corruption, whether it be VIP lanes for COVID or the like. And he would come in and he would clean up politics, and it would be better as a result of having him in charge. And now, of course...
Don't make me laugh.
Now, of course... It's only Monday morning, isn't it?
I know.
But now, of course, we see, that actually that he hasn't played by the same rules that he said that others, namely the Conservative, needed to play by.
Once hailed as the man to revive Labour, Starmer now appears crushed under the weight of both past and present failures. This divorce is no longer a private matter. It has become a symbol of a deeper crisis, a party losing direction by internal division. With his public image increasingly associated with uncertainty and disappointment, many are beginning to ask, could this be the end of Starmer's political ambitions? Political analysts warned that the British public may not easily forgive what they see as a blatant betrayal. The country stands at a critical crossroads, and the fallout from this divorce could have lasting consequences for the Labour Party. Starmer's critics are already seizing upon this weakness to intensify pressure on his leadership. Some now describe him as a once powerful figure slipping into irrelevance. Others see him as a divisive leader who is rapidly losing the trust of both his party and the public.
So I think there is something bigger going on here, and it's annoying because I don't know what it is.
The Labour Party attempts to project unity, but this personal crisis risks inflaming the very ideological rifts it has long struggled to contain. For most Britons, the current situation brings back memories of past political collapses. The last time a party leader faced a personal scandal of this scale, it ended in a catastrophic defeat at the ballot box. The warning bells from elections past are still ringing in Westminster, a stark reminder that personal integrity is often inseparable from political survival.
We saw protests this weekend in Bristol, as Paul mentioned, about the Supreme Court ruling. Do you believe a trans woman is a woman?
Look, I think the Supreme Court has answered that question.
So you don't believe a trans woman is a woman?
Look, a woman is an adult female, and the court has made that absolutely clear. I actually welcome the judgment because I think it gives real clarity. It allows those that have got to draw up guidance to be really clear about what that guidance should say. So I think it's important that we see the judgment for what it is. It's a welcome step forward. It's real clarity in an area where we did need clarity. I'm pleased it's come about. We need to move and make sure that we now ensure that all guidance is in the right place according to that judgment.
What are your words for the trans community who are worried about what this could mean for them?
Well, look, I think it is important that we have clarity about the law. That's what the Supreme Court is there for. So obviously that's an important and welcome step, and we go forward from there.
The way Starmer navigates this storm will determine not only his future, but also the Labour Party's place within British politics. Commentators and observers are visibly uneasy. Many argue that this is not merely a personal misstep, but a reflection of deeper, structural issues within the party itself. If he can't manage his household, how can he be trusted to run an entire country? One seasoned analyst asked pointedly. The sense of urgency is palpable. This could well mark the beginning of a major political turning point, but for whom and in what direction? What is unfolding in Starmer's private life is already casting a long shadow over his political career.
I just want to conclude, if we can, by talking about events, in inverted commas, in and around Downing Street. Carrie Johnson, you seem to have suggested, should be named if she is fined over Partygate. And if that's the case, should we then expect to hear, the next time your wife gets a parking ticket?
I think there's a huge difference between the situation of the wife of the Prime Minister breaking the rules made by the Prime Minister and any other situation. And I'm not focusing on Carrie here. I actually do agree with the general argument that families of politicians shouldn't be dragged in. But and therefore I focus
that's Rishi Sunak's
on
wife,
the Prime Minister.
Sir Keir.
Well, Rishi Sunak's wife, again, I do agree with the general proposition that family members shouldn't be brought into political arguments. But so far as the Chancellor's wife is concerned, there's just a fundamental question of principle here, which is their household benefiting from money made in Russia when the government's put in place sanctions? That is in the public interest for us to have an answer to. I'm not attacking their family. I don't agree with that way of doing politics. But I do want to know, is the Chancellor's household, benefiting from money from a company that's investing in Russia when the government is saying, quite rightly, that nobody should be doing that, sanctions should be in place, and we should, particularly in the dreadful situation in Ukraine, frankly, be doing everything we can, not just to make life more difficult in Russia, but to cripple their ability to function. So it's not a personal attack. I don't agree with that. I absolutely don't agree with that. But I do think that I would have thought the Chancellor would actually want to come clean on this and say, actually, I can be very, very clear that my household doesn't benefit from any money that's come in any way from Russia during this invasion of Ukraine. It's a simple question. I think he should just answer it. It'd actually help his wife if he...
Most importantly, the nation is watching closely as this defining moment takes shape. Labour, once regarded as a beacon of progressive politics, now appears unsteady, teetering on the edge of an identity crisis. The internal battle to define the party's true character has never felt more urgent. In addition, the general election is drawing near, so there is little room left for error. Amid this turmoil, the British public has every right, and indeed a responsibility, to demand honesty and accountability from those they elect. They can no longer afford to be pacified by empty promises or tired political theatrics.
To us, so it's just to preparing. I was trying to prepare a proper defence for her to see what our best options were, but I couldn't get her home. They wouldn't let her on bail. I wanted her to come home and have a chat with people who would be able to tell her the best routes, but she didn't have that option because she couldn't get out of the she couldn't get out of prison. She couldn't, so she had to just go with the advice. She knew I didn't want her to plead guilty. She knew I wanted her to go to trial, but she felt it was her best option to get home and see her daughter at the quickest possible.
I mean, I'll tell you what I think, Ray, along with a lot of other defendants in the same position as Lucy, that effectively she was conned. Loads of these defendants who went to jail pretty swiftly after the summer riots were told, plead guilty and you'll be out of there, no problem at all, lenient sentence, and they were not treated leniently. They were treated exactly the opposite. Let's fast forward to sort of now and recent months. Now, you've been making a big effort for Lucy to at least be allowed out on licence to see your daughter. And frankly, I think she should be allowed out full time now. This is getting stupid. It's getting ridiculous. But they won't let her out. Tell us about that. Where are you at with your attempts to get Lucy out early?
Well, it's, obviously Lucy, it's very, it's almost like when she speaks to probation at the prison, their words are, look, Lucy, in normal circumstances, this is a done deal. You're low risk and easy manageable, but you are Lucy Connolly. So The home detention curfew was pretty much...
If Keir Starmer truly wants to salvage both his credibility and the future of the Labour Party, he must face reality head-on. There is no longer room for hesitation. Trust has been damaged, and only meaningful action can begin to restore it. The entire nation is watching him, and history will show no mercy if he fails in this defining moment. In this context, silence is no longer an option, but there are more challenges for Keir Starmer to overcome in the coming days. Keir Starmer was shunned by veterans on V-Day amid growing discontent. They say you can fool some people some of the time, but Keir Starmer has just learned that you can't fool British veterans twice.
And we understand that the rules apply to all of us. This morning, I spoke to John Robinson, a constituent of the member for Lichfield. I want to tell you his story. When his wife died of COVID, John and his family obeyed the Prime Minister's rules. He didn't see her in hospital. He didn't hold her hand as she died. Their daughters and grandchildren drove 100 miles up the motorway, clutching a letter from the funeral director in case they were questioned by the police. They didn't have a service in the church. John's son-in-law stayed away because he would have been the forbidden seventh mourner. Doesn't the Prime Minister realise that John would have given the world to hold his dying wife's hand, even if it was just for 9 minutes? But he didn't, because he followed the Prime Minister's rules. Rules that we now know the Prime Minister blithely, repeatedly and deliberately ignored. After months of insulting excuses, today's half-hearted apology will never be enough for John Robinson. If the Prime Minister had any respect for John and the millions like him who sacrificed everything to follow the rules, he'd resign. But he won't, because he doesn't respect John. He doesn't respect the sacrifice of the British public. He is a man without shame.
In a dramatic development, the Prime Minister has reportedly been blocked from attending a major V-Day ceremony after outraged veterans threatened to boycott the event if he appeared. And the biggest question is why? Let's break it down. On the anniversary marking Victory in Europe Day, a day meant to honour those who sacrificed everything for the nation, the very people being celebrated have turned their backs on the country's leader. While Starmer delivers speeches and heartfelt letters about duty and gratitude, many veterans are calling him out for what they say is a string of empty promises. According to sources close to the organisers, backlash to Starmer's expected attendance was immediate and overwhelming. Once his name was announced, phones rang non-stop. Regimental associations and local British Legion branches made their stance clear. If he's there, we're not. This, they insist, isn't about party politics. It's about trust. Veterans who risk their lives for the country are tired of politicians who use them for photo opportunities while doing little to address their actual needs. Starmer once pledged sweeping reforms, better mental health support, housing solutions, help with reintegration and respect in retirement. What they got instead, critics argue, is a £50 million scheme many describe as a token gesture. Delayed services, bureaucratic hurdles and broken promises have become the norm. Harold Jenkins, a 92-year-old D-Day veteran, said bluntly, he's got no right to stand beside us. He hasn't earned that. Corporal Lisa Drummond, who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, added, every year they say we matter. Every year they promise change, and every year nothing changes. Starmer is no different. If anything, he's worse because he pretends to care while doing nothing. This year, veterans have had enough. The organisers were reportedly left with no choice but to remove the Prime Minister from the programme following the intensity of the boycott threat. The aftermath implies a major embarrassment for a leader who hoped to be seen alongside the nation's heroes. Downing Street has declined to comment, but insiders say Starmer was disappointed and surprised. But should he be surprised? Veterans say this is what happens when politicians make promises but only deliver press releases. The public sees through it. Trust isn't lost in a single moment, but eroded bit by bit. And now, amid ongoing unrest from public sector workers, rising crime and economic pressure, being rejected by veterans adds another blow to the Prime Minister's credibility.
Those veterans had made the most incredible effort to be there. Most of them, that was physically difficult to get there. It had taken them days to get there. Emotionally, it was difficult for some of them because they hadn't been back. And I was really struck by the fact that when the King arrived, many of them in their wheelchairs, you could see the effort they were putting in to try to get out of their wheelchair to stand up for the King. And most of them did, even for a few minutes, a few seconds, because it was so hard. And obviously they'll still be making their way back. I thought it was really important for me to be there, to pay my respects to them and those that didn't return, and actually to say thank you. Now, Rishi Sunak will have to answer for his own actions. For me, there was nowhere else I was going to be.
Despite his absence, V-Day commemorations will proceed. Veterans will gather. Planes will soar overhead. The country will pause to honour the greatest generation. But Starmer won't be in the picture. And that, many say, speaks volumes. Respect can't be bought with speeches. It must be earned. And right now, Starmer has lost it. As thousands commemorate this anniversary, it's not just a reflection on the past, but a reckoning with the present.
Europe, which started in 1914 and ended in 1945, and there was a big gap in the middle. And as a result of the settlement, there has been peace for this period of time, but one always wonders how vulnerable it is.
Just looking at these scenes on the Mall, if you are just joining us here on Sky News, this is seen live outside Buckingham Palace. Crowds of...
Most importantly, the veterans are sending a clear message. We fought and bled for this country. We don't need to stand next to someone who keeps letting it down. Overall, Keir Starmer is facing one crisis after another, and if he doesn't figure out how to navigate all these, his premiership may be in danger of a premature end. If you enjoyed this political discussion, like the video and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating political content.